Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rock Squad podcast, your destination for the latest in rock music news, reviews, and discussion. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Nick Chino. I'm joined by my co-host, is Dave Marini.
Hey, buddy, how's it going? Hey, everyone. Before we get started today, like always, make sure you go down there and you subscribe to this wonderful video and you like it and you follow us on Instagram. You follow us on Twitter, Rock Squad Podcast. Also, myself and Nick play in a fun little rock band. Our stuff is available at foolsunion.com. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. It's on YouTube Music. You can buy it anywhere. You can stream it anywhere. Enjoy it on us. Nick, my friend, how are you doing?
Doing all right. I heard you got your second vaccination. I hear you're ready to rock now. Is that true?
I feel superhuman. I'm not going to lie. I'm ready to rock, man. I'm ready for festivals. My new name is Open Mouth Dave. Everything's coming at you.
Yeah.
Get ready. I'm a hugger and a kisser now. I'm coming out of this stronger than I went into the pandemic.
Yeah. All sorts of bodily fluids.
Yeah.
Well, let's give the folks a rundown of what's going on with the show this week. We're going to get to our headliner topic in just a little bit, talking about Aerosmith. Could they ever play live again? That is this week's headliner topic. Then we'll get to some opening act topics, which are some of the latest topics in rock music news. We'll be talking about a Beach Boys box set for their Surf's Up and Sunflower albums. Rob Zombie is directing the Munsters, and the Foo Fighters are bringing rock back to Madison Square Garden. That's on our opening act topics. But first, let's get to this week's sound check. One of our favorite bands, Canadian or otherwise, just released a new single. Ian Thornley and Big Wreck are back with a new song called Middle of Nowhere. This is a cool song, Dave. I don't know if you listened to it yet. It is Big Wreck, which is awesome, but it features one Chad Kroeger of Nickelback on it as well. So I don't want to get into a Nickelback conversation just yet, but have you heard this song from Big Wreck yet?
I actually did hear the song. I'm a huge Big Wreck fan, so I'm always eager to hear what Ian Thornley has kicking and what he's putting out. Yeah, man, it sounds pretty standard Big Wreck for having Chad Kroeger involved. I know that they've kind of they've worked together before. They've done some songwriting before for some Nickelback stuff. I think Thornley played some slide guitar on some Nickelback stuff. Now, personally, I'm not opening the can of worms of the Nickelback issue right now, or lack thereof issue. Whatever. Yeah. Let's talk. We could have a whole series, a whole channel devoted to that topic.
Yeah.
But you can't take any credit away from Nickelback. They've they're one of the top selling Canadian artists of all time, if not North American artists of all time. They've managed to maintain a rock band and stay together for almost 3 decades. And yeah, man, so don't take anything away from them, fan or not. But the Big Wreck song, I liked it. It was, to be honest, it wasn't my favorite thing that they've released in the last little bit, but it was interesting nonetheless. You got those big guitars and really catchy melody for the chorus, but as usual for that band, because that's what they do best. But it wasn't lacking anything. It just didn't bite me the way that I need music to bite me right now. So yeah, I thought it was okay. I'm going to say it's an okay. Definitely worth checking out. What did you think of it?
It was a little bit more chill than I expected. I expected it to hit a little bit harder. It was a little bit bluesier than I expected. Yeah, there was a cool riff in there that I thought was cool, but I think I think you and I are on the same page in that it didn't quite bite us the way that we were hoping. Because I think I recommended on a show, I don't know how many weeks ago I recommended on the show, a song from their last album that came out in 2019, which is called But for the Sun. There's a couple of tracks that kick off that album. There's Voices and Locomotive, which are these huge, catchy, punchy rock songs. And obviously Ian Thornley is an incredible guitar player and vocalist. And I know you don't want to get into the Nickelback conversation because we might be opening up a can of worms. For me with Nickelback, I lost them along the way, but I still go back to maintaining that The State, which I don't know if it's their debut or the sophomore record, The State with Leader of Men, Old Enough, that was still a great record. And then when you get into the Silver Side Up Air with How You Remind Me, I did like that song when it first came out. So I do have to admit that about me and Nickelback. So I don't know, like with Chad Kroeger on this song, are we allowed to like this song? Is that okay? Are
You
we?
know, I'm gonna make everyone happy right now, and I'm gonna give a positive Nickelback note.
Yeah,
I've seen Nickelback a few times
me
in my
too.
life, like maybe probably like 4 times, I think, different in different environments. And I have to say, one year I saw them. I think it was at an Edge Fest or at something. And I'd have to say that their pit during that Leader of Men
Yeah.
era, was one of the roughest mosh pits I have ever been in. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been in, you name it, I've been there. The Slayers, the System of a Downs, the Sepulturas, I've seen a lot of really heavy bands playing live, and I was very surprised. Like I got beat up more in that Nickelback pit than I had ever been beat up before. So that being said, I think it was all right. You know,
Yeah, well, it's the
it was all
fiery
right.
rage of Nickelback fans who knew that they were so aggressive, that they had so much energy to get out into a mosh pit. I've seen Nickelback a couple of times as well. I don't know if it was is quite as crazy as you're saying, but yeah, we'll go with it. This is okay. We prefer Big Wreck without the Chad Kroger, if possible. Very much looking forward
Yeah.
to more material from Big Wreck and some new music from them. Another thing we want to get to in the sound check this week is a couple of big rock releases coming out this Friday for New Music Friday. One of them being Mammoth WVH. Wolfgang Van Halen is coming out with his debut solo record. And this was a record, I haven't heard the whole thing, but a bunch of the songs that have come out before the release of the Mammoth WVH stuff. It really took me by surprise because I do enjoy my fair share of Van Halen. I wouldn't say I'm a gigantic Van Halen fan. I enjoy my fair share of Van Halen. Not to say that everything that Wolfgang Van Halen has to be connected to his dearly departed father. May Eddie rest in peace. He's forging his own path. Not everything has to be connected to Van Halen, but there is that name and familial connection. But this is a record that really snuck up on me. It hits hard, especially the single "You're to Blame" has been one of my favorite singles of the year so far. It kicks a lot of ass. It really, really is a great rock song, and he plays all the instruments on this record. So looking forward to that. And then there's another one, a greatest hits compilation from Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds called The Way We Came. Is coming out this Friday. Are either of these releases exciting to you, Dave?
Yeah, man. I love I can't wait for both of those. Like the Noel Gallagher project, it didn't obviously doesn't get as much attention as like the Oasis stuff. And to have those compilations, is this the second compilation thing or is this the
It's
first?
the first best of they put out, yeah.
That first best of. Yeah, so like yeah, they definitely have enough songs to fill up a best of. I've talked on the show before about how great they are live, and yeah, I'm excited, man. I can't wait to hear. Like just it's always good to have a fun compilation. You miss a song here or there, or like the
Mhm.
third single of a record that you didn't catch, and then you jump back in and you get the best all in one shot with what the band thinks is the best. Like this is what we're
Right.
trying to do.
Yeah, and when Noel Gallagher said recently in an interview that he has no desire to go back to playing with Oasis, and I understand that because as a gigantic Oasis fan myself, I'm happy to see the Gallagher brothers doing their solo thing. To me, you get twice as much music, you get double the fun with the Gallagher brothers right now
Yeah.
because they're both putting out music and they're both putting out high quality stuff too. Noel Gallagher is still a great songwriter on his own. Liam Gallagher leans a little bit more on co-writers and producers to help him put out his stuff. But in the end, the end result for both projects is still really, really strong, I think.
Yeah, for sure. What was the first new release that you mentioned?
The Mammoth WVH, Wolfgang.
Dude, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Wolfgang stuff. All the singles that he's put out so far are really, really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's not, you don't have to be a fan of Van Halen to like this. I think just hard rock fans in general, I think he's done a really good job with keeping his own vibe while paying tribute to, obviously there's going to be a comparison. You can't not,
Yeah.
but I think he's taken a good approach. It's a little bit more percussive hard rock where it's, because he's playing the drums and the bass and a little bit like, a little bit like melodic Tool at points. Some of those songs have like, that's that kind of rock, and that's cool. I think it's great. And that's one of the projects that I'm really excited to finally get to see live if they start doing stuff, and when everything opens up, it's one of those things that you're kind of waiting to come to town to go check out, you know?
Yeah, he's going to open up for Guns N' Roses on their US tour coming up this summer, so that'd be a pretty solid little show, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Wolfgang and Guns N' Roses, and we'll definitely do a rock album review for the new Wolfgang Van Halen Mammoth WVH record that's coming out this Friday, so keep your eye on the channel for that. But let's get to the opening act topics on this week's Rock Squad podcast. Some big news items that are happening in the world of rock music news. The first one being that the Foo Fighters are going to be playing Madison Square Garden for the first gig there in almost 500 days. They're going to be returning to the famed New York City venue for the first performance there since March 2020, Dave. It's been that long since a band has graced the halls of Madison Square Garden. The gig's going to be happening on June 20th with a full capacity crowd that has to be fully vaccinated. Dave Grohl and the boys promised on Twitter a very long night of rock and roll celebrating 26 glorious years of the Foo Fighters. So, we're nowhere near New York City right now. We're in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. But I'm pretty excited for this, the return of live music, but mainly the return of the Foo Fighters, because I think this is going to be a very cathartic and very therapeutic experience for all the people that are going to be going to Madison Square Garden to go see the Foo Fighters. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a hell of a party. We may not be there, but there better not be a curfew. There better not be somebody calling time at 11 o'clock for the house lights to go up, because I have a feeling that Dave Grohl is going to have a lot to say at this show and a lot to sing as well.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm super stoked. I'm glad they're the band they picked to do the big return. And it's good too, because everyone was waiting for last year. Of course, they were going to do the 25th anniversary van tour, which was like they had a bunch of ideas for, and it probably would have come.
It was going to come here. It was going to come to Hamilton, and they didn't come.
Yeah, it didn't come, right? So hopefully that this is like let's forget about it. Let's move on, upward and onward. And I think Madison Square Garden, obviously a historic venue, and kind of the center of entertainment for the East Coast for since the beginning of time. So it's amazing, man. The Foo Fighters are great. They're definitely one of the best hard rock bands ever. So the fact that they're in their glory right now, and they're one project after another, and it's still quality. Whether it's a book, whether it's a documentary, like their popularity right now is super hot. So keep it going. Anytime a rock band gets praised and gets pushed in a way that people are going to pay attention, that's good for everybody in my books.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good to see the return of the Foo Fighters. I don't even want to know what the set list would be, because I would hope that it would be extensive, reaching into all the various aspects of the Foo Fighters catalog, from every album to every B-side. And it got me thinking about the times that I've seen the Foo Fighters. I don't know. I think you've seen them a bunch of times as well. Speaking of, you were saying, crazy mosh pits.
Sure.
Perhaps one of the craziest mosh pits I've ever been a part of was when the Foos played Arrow Hall in Mississauga in 2002 on the 1x1 tour, when they played All My Life. This is actually a show that's available on DVD. They filmed it for the DVD. Did you go to that show, Dave? We were at that together.
I did not go to that show.
Yeah, but Arrow Hall, when they did All My Life and that song kicked in, the mosh pit was absolutely insane. Molson Amphitheater, I think I saw them in 2005 on the In Your Honor tour, where I saw them front row, which was not planned, but saw them front row. And then saw them at the Molson Amphitheater again in 2015 when Dave Grohl was on the throne after he broke his leg. And that was a very extensive show as well, because I think they ended up playing longer than 3 hours, maybe 3.5, 4 hours. And he was on the throne. He was talking a lot during that show. Every song was an extended jam. It didn't matter what song it was. Monkey Wrench, Best of You, Everlong, whatever. Every song turned into this extended jam, which was pretty cool. I thought that was enjoyable.
Yeah, they do. They have epic shows, man. I've been in a few really good Foo Fighters pits. I've been in some really strange Foo Fighters pits too. One of the last times I saw them was in Chicago for the Wasting Light tour.
Yeah.
And I was there with a friend of ours, we'll call her Mystery Woman X, because during the set, someone urinated into her shoe. while we were watching the food. It was the crazy. It was kind of a wet, sludgy night, and everyone was really gross and festival-y, and people were just pissing. And it was when you're in a crowd, when you're in a crowd of 200,000 people at a rock show, right in the middle, and it's been raining for a few hours outdoors. I don't know, man. Like we were losing shoes. Like we had to go get tetanus shots. It was not a good scene, but unfortunately, a good friend of ours, I'll mention it after the show. We were standing there, and I saw her, and she looked down and started losing her mind on the guy beside her. And then that guy scurried off into the crowd, and I said, "What just happened? What just happened? Did he grab you?" She said, "He pissed in my shoe.
He's a urinator.
He's a urinator." And everybody booed him while he, probably went to go roofie somebody.
Yeah, I don't think Dave Grohl would approve of people pissing on other people at a concert, but it's out of his control.
You don't pee on people in a pit. Come on.
It's not a piss pit. It's a rock pit. Sweat only. Maybe some vomit. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, I suppose at Madison Square Garden, the conditions will be somewhat controlled compared to when you saw them in Chicago. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things go off without a hitch for the Foo Fighters in Madison Square Garden, and nobody gets pissed on. That would be.
If you're looking to guarantee a piss pit in Madison Square Garden, I don't know. I'm not taking those odds, man. That could happen.
It could happen.
Has changed.
We'll see. In a couple of, when this concert happens, we'll see. We could be reporting about it here at the Rock Squad podcast. Could be very scandalous.
We're gonna have reporters on the ground reporting on the piss pit.
This is the Rock Squad podcast live.
Dry. Yeah. The humidity level on the ice surface.
What I feel a warm stream. Yes, it's definitely piss. Rock and roll is definitely back, everybody. That'll be the first indication. All right, let's get to our next opening out topic on the Rock Squad podcast, and that is the Beach Boys releasing a new box set called Feel Flows for the Sunflower and Surfs Up era, the 50th anniversary of those two, I guess I would say classic. I don't know if a lot of people in general would say those ones are classic. They're going to feature 5 discs and 108 previously unreleased tracks recorded between 1969 and 1971. You got some alternate mixes, live stuff, isolated vocal tracks, which makes sense for a band like the Beach Boys. And it's going to be coming on July 30th. They just released an unreleased song called Big Sur, which you can check out on streaming services. And Dave, this is actually very funny for me because I'm a pretty big Beach Boys fan, but last year around this time, during the first lockdown and quarantine that we were going over, I said to myself, you know what? I need a listening project. Like I really want to dig into a band's catalog and listen to every single song and every single album. So I listened to every single Beach Boys album from front to back. They have something like 30 records in their catalog. It took me, this was over a couple of months. It was a very prolonged experience. And it was hilarious after the fact because then Spotify thought that the Beach Boys were my favorite band of all time. And my end of the year playlist was all filled with Beach Boys. So it was quite an undertaking. But the thing is that I came to appreciate the different eras of the Beach Boys because we know obviously the early days when they were everyone's favorite surf rock band, everyone's favorite car club band. Then they moved into the Pet Sounds era, and then they burned out with Smile. But these two albums, Sunflower and Surf's Up, are actually they're pretty cool, and I think they're actually really, really good. Brian Wilson was scattershot between all these different albums. He only would appear every once in a while, but there's some really great songs. Slip On Through is a good one. Tears in the Morning, Forever came from these sessions, which obviously we know that Uncle Jesse covered on Full House and sang to Aunt Becky. That was a big song for the Rippers. And then other members were stepping up for the Beach Boys during this time. Mike Love, Al Jardine, Carl Wilson, Dennis Wilson, obviously, whenever Brian Wilson wasn't around. But what's your mileage with the Beach Boys? I don't know if we've ever really talked about them.
The Beach Boys to me, they're like the earth. To me, they sit in the same place as like a Radiohead. Like where I like different eras and different flavors of them. I was unaware. I don't really know all the story of the Beach Boys when Brian Wilson was dealing with his depression and stuff, is that when it became a little bit more Mike Love and everybody else kind of stepped up and he just backed off? He was never like out, he was just like backing away.
He would kind of come in and out. So they made Pet Sounds, and then he went to go make Smile, and that's when that became unreleased, and he burnt out after that. So after that, Carl Wilson stepped up and became the leader of the band, and they started playing live a lot more. They went out and started playing live as that combination. Bruce Johnston came in and started doing more stuff, and then Brian Wilson still wrote songs for the albums, and some of the songs from the Smile sessions would trickle out, but he definitely wasn't like the driving artistic force of the band.
Crazy. I didn't know that. I've never really like I've watched lots of stuff. Like I know all the stuff about like the Manson family and like all that crazy shit, and like Dennis Wilson and all that stuff. But I was unaware of like the timeline. I always felt like they haven't really explained it well. You know, there needs to be a good Beach Boys movie to like you know, to like show that like when he came in, because he was he was the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And then he, you know, it's like, and then he just completely backed out, but didn't really. And that's, I think, confusing.
Well, he's still going strong now. Like, you know, Brian Wilson has been for the last, he finished Smile. That ended up coming out in 2005. Then they actually did release the Beach Boys version of Smile about 10 years ago. It came out in 2011. The full album, everything came out. So that was cool. And it's a very great record. Both versions, the Brian Wilson version and the Beach Boys version. But it was funny because I was on Instagram earlier and there's Brian Wilson announcing a show coming up in LA. And I find that so heartwarming that through all the stuff that he went through, that he's still out there playing and singing Beach Boys songs. That makes me very happy.
Is it that he doesn't get along with the Beach Boys, so that's why they do separate things? Or is it that because he has those sensitivities and that kind of a mind, it makes more sense for him to just do what works for him when he can do it? Is that what it is? Or is there like an issue?
Mike Love, I think, owns the name Beach Boys. So Mike Love is the one who goes out and tours as the Beach Boys. They did have a reunion in 2012. They made a record called That's Why God Made the Radio, which was with Brian Wilson, all the original members that were still alive. Obviously, Carl and Dennis couldn't be there. But the rest of them all got back together, and that was pretty cool. And then they broke off again, and Mike Love, you know, continues on with the Beach Boys name, and Brian Wilson is out there with Al Jardine and Blondie Chaplin, who played with the band. They're out doing a tour as well. So I guess you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when he started to back away, that's when Mike Love became more of the band leader, and that's why he kind of has the creative on it.
A little bit. Carl Wilson for a long time was the main force, and then Carl died in the late 90s, I believe, and then Mike Love definitely became the driving force, but not so much in the studio. Just as a touring band, they're road horses for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so at what era, who made the executive decision for Uncle Jesse? When did John Stamos come into the mix?
John Stamos, he played with the Beach Boys in the 80s. He would play drums and percussion with the Beach Boys as a musician. And so when he finally got onto Full House, that's why he had an in to always say, you know, they would have episodes, hey, the Beach Boys are here. The Beach Boys randomly showed up in our basement. And we're jamming with the Beach Boys, and we're in Hawaii with the Beach Boys. So that's why, you know, he has that strong connection with them.
So Uncle Jesse really was a ripper.
Yeah.
He's ripping it.
Ripping for forever.
I actually follow John Stamos on Instagram, and I have noticed that he's actually on tour right now with the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
doing the Florida resorts and stuff. Like that's got, you know, that how perfectly targeted is that audience, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You know, we come for Kokomo, we stay for John Stamos.
Yeah. But yeah, Kokomo was a resurgence for the band in the 80s. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
On the Cocktail soundtrack, the Tom Cruise movie. Classic. All right, let's get to our last opening act topic, and that is Rob Zombie is going to be directing a new version of the Munsters. He's going to be doing a film version based on the classic 60s sitcom. He's known for his music, obviously, but we know that Rob Zombie is a seasoned horror movie director. Halloween 1 and 2, the remakes, The Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, 3 from Hell. There's no details about casting, who's going to be playing the Munsters in this film. But what do you think of this, Dave? I know, we're fans of Rob Zombie's music, kind of. I love a little Dragula and Living Dead Girl as much as the next guy. But I can't say I'm a huge fan of his movies and his filmmaking. What about you?
Oh well, it's one of those things. He's definitely good for the genre of horror he does. You can't really take that away from him. If you're into slasher picks and all that stuff, that's definitely he sets the bar right now for that kind of thing and has for a little bit. But yeah, I love Rob Zombie and White Zombie. We've they're one of those influential hard rock metal bands that has influenced a lot of the other bands that we like,
Mhm.
and he's in the phases of Zombie have been interesting too, like he's a little more industrial sometimes, he's a little more like metal sometimes, so he's a fun act and one of the best live shows you'll ever see ever. It's nonstop. There's strippers and robots and fireworks, and it's just endless supply of entertainment when you go see him. It's definitely a road show. So yeah, I love Rob Zombie. Now the Munsters, I'm not sure the angle they're going to take on this. So I don't know if it's going to be as graphic as the movies he's been making. Is it a TV show or is it a movie?
I think it's going to be a feature film.
Feature film. So I think if he lightened up a little bit, like if he just brought on some had like more of a Ghostbusters vibe than a slasher vibe, like where everything's kind of tongue in cheek. There's some funny lines, some good characters. I think it could be really good. It could be, the Munsters it's like kind of like an Addams Family kind of vibe. Like definitely, yeah, I dig it. It's definitely the right person, especially if he's willing to do it. It's just for me to enjoy that. I hope he kind of dials it down in the graphic department. I know there's going to be a ton of people right now that are like, no, he's got to stay true to the slasher genre.
Yeah. It's got to be unwatchable.
And that's fine, and I'll probably still watch it. But some of the scenes in some of his movies are tough to stomach sometimes. So, but everyone has their taste. So I'm excited. I think that he's a good director, whether or not you like his his approach or his genre of filmmaking. But yeah, it's going to be great, man. We'll check it out. I'm not going to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down until it comes out because like Witches of Salem. Sometimes he tries something that's not that good and it doesn't, or it should be good, but it doesn't end up that way. Actually, he was making, I was excited for a while. He was making a movie called the Broad Street Bullies, and it was about the 70s Philadelphia Flyers teams. And so it was like going to be a bloody guts hockey movie.
That's a Simpsons joke. They did that in the Halloween episode of The Simpsons when all these evil people show up in the Simpsons living room. They're like, Lizzie Borden, the 76 Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah. The Broad Street Bullies, bud. It was legit, like people getting hacked in the back of the head. And we're talking before helmets and mouth guards. And, so people were slapping pucks at 80 miles an hour to people. The goalies are all cut up. So he was going to do a realism view of, this is what it was like. But I heard they couldn't get the licensing from the NHL because the NHL doesn't want to portray something so graphic, especially with all the brain injury stuff. And it just wouldn't be a good look for the NHL. So then they had to do it. They would have to change the Flyers names. And it just didn't have the same appeal. Doesn't have the appeal anymore. So I was really excited for that. But Munsters, let's see how the Munsters go.
Roll the dice on the Munsters. Actually, Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one, is the only movie I've ever gone to that I wanted to walk out on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't end up walking out on it, and me and my girlfriend at the time, when we went to go see it, we both wanted to walk out, but we didn't say that to each other. Because we were like, oh, maybe they want to watch it and I don't want to bug them, but we both wanted to walk out. It's not so much the violence in that movie that bothered me, because you can kind of get desensitized a little bit to horror movie violence, but it was the yelling and the swearing. I don't know if it was this past year or the year before that. I rewatched all the Halloween movies, and when I got to Rob Zombie's Halloween, I was like, all right, it's been over 10 years since I've seen this thing. I'm gonna pop it in and I'm gonna give it another shot. But within the first 20 minutes of the movie, it's just people yelling and swearing, and it's not that I'm not Puritan. It's not like I can't hear swear words. I can throw out my fair share of F-bombs as much as anybody else, but it was just so unnecessary, and it's just bad filmmaking in that regard. I've never seen any of the Devil's Rejects or the House of a Thousand Corpses. I've never seen any of those ones. I have a feeling I probably wouldn't like them. Like I said, I enjoy some Dracula. When Halloween comes around, I'm rocking the Rob Zombie as much as anybody else. But as a filmmaker, I'm not so sure about his style. I don't know how that's going to mix with the Munsters, because I imagine the studio that wants to make the movie wants it to be somewhat family friendly, or at least marketable in a way that they can sell some toys and some merchandise and some Funko Pops and some action figures, because that is the point of taking on an IP like the Munsters. So fingers crossed that it will actually be something that people are going to want to watch on a mass scale.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie's The Munsters. We'll see when it comes out in movie theaters, whenever. So those are our opening act topics for this week's Rock Squad podcast. Let's get to this week's headliner topic. And this is concerning a band that is dear to both Dave and I. I think we can both pledge allegiance to Aerosmith. Will they ever tour again? Aerosmith guitarist Brad Whitford did an interview with Joe Bonamassa, another great guitar player, and he said he didn't know if the band would ever perform again. Their European tour that they had booked and is now rescheduled for 2022, and their Las Vegas residency got cut short because of COVID-19, as did everything else. And he doesn't know if they're too old to hit the road again. And when I read this news, Dave, I was kind of bummed, because Aerosmith, for me, Oasis is always considered for me kind of be the genesis of my love of rock and roll music. But Aerosmith was really the first band that I loved in the 90s, and especially in the early to mid 90s. Big Ones was the first album I ever bought on CD. The first concert I ever went to was Aerosmith at Cops Coliseum here in Hamilton in 1998. They're the first band that I ever really, really loved. And I'm thinking that they maybe should pack it in at this point. If they can't really bring the goods to the stage, especially when they have to do something like a Las Vegas residency, which seems to me to be kind of a long-term thing that might not be able to sustain itself. They have that, but then they also haven't really been in the studio either. It's been 10 years since the release of their last album, Music from Another Dimension, which I thought was a great record. I thought that was a solid final studio effort, if that's what it is. But then even on that record, when you listen to it, you can tell that Steven Tyler's voice is not quite what it is. Steven Tyler, to me, it might be the best vocalist of all time. Your mileage may vary depending on who you love as a vocalist, but just in terms of pure vocal ability, of being able to reach those notes and just sing the way he can, Steven Tyler is up there for me. But I don't know if these guys, have what it takes still. Do you think that Aerosmith still has what it takes to keep going?
Well, first off, that I'm a huge Aerosmith fan. That's something that we have bonded over the years, making music together and stuff. We're a huge fan of that band, especially the late 80s, early 90s, into the mid 90s. That whole, like, up until Nine Lives pretty much is like,
Nine Lives
is like our section of Aerosmith. And they're definitely one of the top, we talk about this all the time, like American bands. Like what bands from America from the 70s and the 80s are like our top five. And they're definitely, if not number one or number two, like they're definitely my top five. I've been lucky enough to see them. You've been lucky enough to see them. But they got issues in that band. They got issues with Joey Kramer. They have issues with Steven Tyler. They have issues with Joe Perry. Joe Perry wants to be a vampire and hang out with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to pick up Steven Tyler when he falls off stages. That's pretty much what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that them and Joey Kramer can't get along right now, it doesn't look good for Aerosmith. I love them, and I wish they would, but maybe it is time, like they haven't, like you said, they haven't been in the studio for a while. maybe they definitely have less time in front of them than they do behind them. So
Yeah.
maybe it's time to call it a day. Go out on a high note. You went out with like a residency in Vegas and having fun and doing all that jazz, but maybe, I don't know. Do you even want to see Aerosmith without Joey Kramer?
Not really. Yeah, they were locking him out of rehearsals because they thought that he wasn't up to task to play drums for them. So that was, I think, a year or two ago that was happening. They were locking him out of rehearsals, and then they figured that whole thing out. I don't know. At this point, it doesn't really seem like it's worth carrying on because these guys are getting older. Not to say that they still can't put on a great show, because I'm sure that they can, but a lot of bands don't really get to put an exclamation point on their career and end it on their own terms. And as far as, what's in terms of classic rock bands that are still going strong in 2021, I think the Stones would be the only other band that would be comparable to Aerosmith. There might be some other ones, but you think about it, Aerosmith still has all 5 of its original members, which is absolutely insane to think about at their age, this long into their career. It's 2021. These guys have been around for 50 years and they're still going strong. Still, the 5 original members of Aerosmith are still in the band. So let's end it on a high note. I don't know if that means doing a final show. Maybe they do have rescheduled dates for the European tour and for the Las Vegas residency. I don't know if that means going back and just doing a limited run of shows just to give everybody some nostalgia trips before they call it a day. But I don't know, man. I think they've run out of gas, it seems to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to handle it. You say that about them, like the longevity of that band staying together and stuff. And it's funny, like we were just talking about like our top 5 American bands, and mine, almost all of them have stayed together the entire time, like pretty close. Like the other one of the other bands on my list would be ZZ Top.
Right.
And the other band on my list would be, like, if we're talking top 3, would probably be Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Yeah. So it's like those are three groups that have stayed pretty, like, I know Tom Petty had a drummer in and out for a while, but pretty tight knit guys that have made great careers. So I don't know. Does there have to be one show? Does there have to be a special? Does there have to be? I think they probably want there to be one big last hurrah that they can sell some vinyls and put some stuff on some streaming sites or something. And that's something that we don't talk a lot about on the show either. That none of the streaming services have really jumped on board with the live concert stream, and I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if you do you know anything about that. You're on the inside of the do you know why there hasn't been, like, how there's like comedy specials and there's like plays and improv specials and stuff. There just doesn't seem to be any funding going into like Aerosmith at MSG for their hurrah. I wonder why that is. I wonder why there hasn't been more of a push in that direction on streaming services.
I'm not sure. Maybe because the live concert industry is such a it's an in-house experience, right? When you go to a concert, I enjoy watching concert films too, but I think more than anything, a concert is the type of thing that really needs to be experienced when you're there. And I think even through the pandemic, a lot of bands have done live streams, but none of them have really taken off. It didn't really take root that this is going to be the future of live music. Everybody was basically holding out that this is just a stopgap until we can get back to the real thing. And I think that's what really matters in live music, is that you're there, you're seeing it live, you're getting pissed on, and that kind of thing, right? You can't replace that experience. So that's what I would say. So I don't know. That's not necessarily an insider, insight, but I would just think that you can't replace the real concert experience.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, man. That being said, if the border were to open up tomorrow and Aerosmith said, okay, we're going to do 3 months of residencies in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like we're doing it in Vegas and then we're ending it. Yeah. I might trek down to see a show. Like, just, I hate regretting, like, I have seen Aerosmith, but I hate like wanting to see a band more and then it's too late. Like I made that mistake with Tom Petty. I had so many opportunities and I love Tom Petty so much, and I just pushed it off. and now I can't. So it's one of those things. So I think I would love to see those guys do it, but it would have to be the full band. It would have everyone would have to be there. I kind of have the same vibe as Kiss, because the last time I saw Kiss, it was full original lineup. So I refuse to go back. I don't want to, I'm like, I got it. I got the Ace Frehley. I got the Peter Chris. I don't need any more. Right. I don't need any more Kiss, but yeah, hopefully they figure something out and it's maybe release something. Maybe I won't go see it, but maybe I'll watch it on a streaming service.
Yeah. I've said it before that bands just don't break up like they used to. Especially nowadays. You can't break up a band if it's a recognizable brand name. It's a recognizable name that everybody knows. You can't break up a band anymore. The way the music industry works, everybody is just trying to get a slice of the pie. Everybody's trying to make as much money as they can from a very, very small pool of cash. And so, I remember in the 90s, you think about Chris Cornell, you think about all these different singers that went solo, all these different bands that broke up. That was during a time when they were making more money. And then you get into the period of the 2000s into the 2010s where it's you can't give up on a recognizable brand, and you have to wring that out as much as possible, especially nowadays. So we'll see if Aerosmith will continue or if they'll call it a day. Either way, again, I got to see them live just like you, and I have that memory for the rest of my life. I'll hold it very dear, very sacred. That is our headliner topic for this week's show. And that is our Rock Squad podcast. We're going to wrap things up. But before we do, we're going to do our tracks of the week. If you want to keep up with all of our rock music recommendations every week on the Rock Squad podcast, you can check that out right now on Spotify at the Rock Squad track of the week playlist. So Dave, what do you got for your tracks of the week? What have you been listening to?
Okay, I got two great tracks. They're both feature tracks. So last week on the podcast, we were talking about how we like Rivers Cuomo from Weezer and how he collaborates with a lot of people. And I had mentioned an Awolnation song that I heard. And so one of my suggestions or recommendations this week is a song by Awolnation. It's called Pacific Coast Highway in the Movies, featuring Rivers Cuomo. It's on all the streaming sites. You can check it out there. Really cool song. And my other song that I've been really into right now is a new release from the band, The Pretty Reckless.
Nice.
And it's the new song that's featuring Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine.
And so it went.
The song, And So It Went by The Pretty Reckless. It's a really cool song. If you're if you're in need of a Tom Morello solo, that's in there. All sorts of weird beeps and bops and tippity taps and that thing. So it definitely will fill your need. Especially if you missed out on the Rage tour this last summer that got canceled rescheduled until 2022. It's a really cool song. They're a really cool band. She's a great vocalist. Underrated hard rock band right now. Maybe they're not underrated, but they do get a lot of love. But if you don't know The Pretty Reckless, Cindy Lou Who from The Grinch Who Stole Christmas,
Taylor Momsen, yeah.
She's all grown up and she sings in a hard rock band. So
I did a rock album review when the album came out a couple of months back. That's one of my favorite rock songs of the year so far. I love the chorus. The world does not belong to you. You are not the king. I am not the fool.
Yeah, it's great lyric.
Yeah,
it was really good. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Those are my two: Awolnation with Rivers, The Pretty Reckless with Tom Morello. Go check it out. You can get it wherever you get your music. Also, if you're in the mood for some music, it's summertime, you're sitting out back. Myself and Nick Chino play in a rock and roll band called Fools Union. You can get all of our music online, anywhere you stream music, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon. You can ask Alexa right now. She will do it for you. You can also find us online at www.foolsunion.com. You can get merch there. You can look at pictures. You can look at videos. Everything you need is in one place. Also, follow us, the show, at Instagram and Twitter, Rock Squad Podcast. Drop a line down below. Subscribe to the video. Like the videos. Anything else, Nick? Did I forget?
I didn't give my tracks of the week yet.
Hold on. I lost it right at the end. I lost my ear.
I didn't. My tracks of the week are the Noel Gallagher song "Flying on the Ground" from the new compilation that's coming out on Friday. It's a classic Noel Gallagher song. Great songwriter. Cool. And also a song by Daywave, which is one of my favorite dream indie pop rock bands. A song called "Ceremony," which is a cover of a New Order song. So
yeah, that's a cool tune.
Yeah, and you can follow me at The Walking Nick. Fools Union, Rock Squad Pod. That's what we do around here, right? Rock on, Dave. We'll see you next week.
Rock on, Nick.